Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon from Sweden, and welcome to this month's live stream with Adway on the topic from reactive to proactive, powered by data. Before I introduce one of Adway's most innovative clients and the star of today's show, let us know in the comment section if you can hear me okay, and please show some energy in there too. You might experience something different about us this afternoon. I don't know what that could be. Could it be AI? Could it be something else? Let's see. Anyhow, before I introduce fantastic Carolina to the show, in today's live, you will learn how Apoteket, Sweden's leading pharmacy chain with a turnover of 20.3 billion and over 3,000 employees, transformed their entire TA strategy into a proactive powerhouse. And as one of Adway's most innovative clients, they now secure dream hires 62% faster, outpace competitors, and deliver a seamless candidate experience with full hiring manager buy-in. So, Carolina, as our lovely guest, please let us know, who are you and what are you doing to transforming the TA space?
Wow, thank you. And I'm so happy to be here. And of course, I think we have to comment about your hair. New color, super good
Might
looking.
be Maybelline, might be AI, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? I'm responsible for the talent acquisition team at Apoteket and also responsible for the employer branding for Apoteket. And we have done so much in 1.5 years, changed how we look at recruitment and, of course, talent acquisition, how we attract the candidates and also how to fill the open positions that we have. So there has been a lot of going on.
Yes, and you guys are always at the forefront innovating. And what I love most about you and also the team, Carolina, before we jump into today's topic, is that you are challenging the tall puppy syndrome, which is the equivalent of jantelagen in Sweden.
Yes.
You're sure TA is nowhere near the tall puppy syndrome, which I believe everyone in our audience today could get energized about, because it's so easy to fall back into the reaction of like, oh, you're just a service center, you're just a backfill position, all those legacy beliefs.
I totally agree with you. And we are not a service provider. We are a strategic partner to the people that we work with, the hiring managers. And we also want to stay in front of how we look at talent acquisition and how we can actually transform this industry. Apoteket, of course, but also the industry.
I love that. Okay, so we have 30 incredibly intense and fantastic knowledgeable minutes ahead, and I'm trying to steer us in the right direction.
Yes.
So should we just jump into kicking off by looking at where Apoteket was a year ago when you stepped in, Carolina? There was 4 main challenges. We can call it recruitment chaos, which is like the obvious state of every TA department at some point. But you went from more of a chaos into a much more proactive strategy. Can you take us through these 4 key challenges that you tackled a year ago?
Sure. And I think before we jump into what we have done, I think it is important to understand where we came from.
Yeah.
And back in the spring of 2023, there were like 1.5, 2 people working with recruitment for the whole organization. And as you mentioned in the beginning, we are a huge organization.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can just figure it out. Wasn't able to work proactive. We were more like a service provider at that stage, and just doing the things that we managed to do. And we were not only doing recruitment, there were also a lot of other things on our plate. So when I started, from a talent acquisition perspective, I think you can call it a chaos. And
everyone can relate. Everyone can relate.
Yes. Hopefully not soon. I mean,
after this,
yes. So the responsibility for the hirings were the hiring managers were responsible for doing that, and some of the hiring managers were doing the whole recruitment process by themselves, or in some cases, or in quite many cases, we were using recruitment agencies to help us. And there were also a mix of the hiring manager doing some part in the recruitment process, and with a combination with someone from HR or from the recruitment department. So there were, a lot of different hiring processes. So
And
there was
equally, then I get different candidate experiences as well, because everything
exactly,
was, yeah.
yeah. So I
Mm.
think at that stage, the candidates they didn't know what to expect in a hiring process at Apoteket. The hiring managers didn't know exactly what to expect,
Mm.
and also the people from the recruitment department also didn't know what to expect. So there were, a lot of challenges at that stage. And there were a decision made that we were going to centralize
Yep.
the recruitment and build this talent acquisition department.
Mm.
And one of the reasons of doing that was we wanted to take control over the cost related to the recruitment.
Yep.
And I think that was the starting point of everything.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, we have to know where we started from and where were the actual issues in order to actually know where to inform decisions made for optimizing. And I think that's one of the key areas we'll align with today, where reliable data is going to be our guiding force here. But in these, like again, where you started out, data as a source, how were that affecting this uncertainty when it came to decision being made or budgets going into different initiatives? How did you make sure you had reliable data?
At that stage,
Yeah.
and related to the way we were working, we didn't have access to data or reliable data. And that was also one very important thing for us as a talent acquisition team to start focusing on. And to be able to have that, we looked at the recruitment with the application tracking system that we had at that stage. And
Yep.
that system weren't able to provide that to us. So we also decided, okay, we need to change this. We need to have a new ATS in place so we can start with reliable data.
Yeah.
Because
Steps, getting the context behind the data, getting the same data out of each sequence.
Exactly. So there were both, we were both taking control over the hiring processes.
Yeah.
We defined a new hiring process that
Yeah.
applied to all positions at our headquarters. And we started to use the ATS in a correct way. And correct way to be able to use the data and make more, decisions based on what we actually can see.
Yeah.
Where do we have to tweak our process? Do we have to do that? How many candidates? How many candidates do we have in a process? What happens with the candidates? Do they actually fit the profile that we are hiring for or not? So that was a very, the baseline.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just to sum up where we started a year ago, so we had an unreliable ATS that didn't support, at all support with data that we make any decisions from. And there were no consistent processes on any level. So it was up to each hiring manager and local
it was a
office.
mix of everything, super.
Leaving candidates feeling lost and hiring managers feeling any more lost. And then I guess you said there was different departments. So there you obviously had the pharmacists, but then you had the HQ and regional offices, and everyone had their own way of doing it, and it was just up to what they like doing, I guess, which could be anything.
Just to make one example, if you have a process and you have the hiring manager, they want to do the first interview, and then they feel, do we have the information that we need to make a decision based on this? Maybe not. And then they have the second interview. And after that, maybe we should have a third interview, and then we had that, and maybe you should do a test, maybe just to make sure.
Yeah.
So there were, a lot of surprises from a candidate perspective.
Yeah, which is super common. And it's just again, working with more structure and reliable data help us pinpoint where we can, make better journeys and decisions. And as you said, there was a lot of managers juggling the processes themselves. So I guess that helps us going into the entire transformation then from chaos to control. I think you mentioned there was also 4 four main strategies, just to be super clear. Like streamlining processes was one,
Streamlining
and
processes, change
yeah,
the ATS,
yeah,
and also start analyzing the ads that we were using.
yeah,
Do we get the return of investment from them or not?
yeah, yeah,
What about the content? How does that apply to the candidates that we are aiming for to reach? Is that in the way that we want it or
yeah,
not? So
yeah,
there were,
yeah,
like a couple of things that we started to look at,
yeah.
and obviously we noticed that okay, we need to have a streamlined process to be
Mhm.
able to understand where what happens in the process, both from our perspective but also from a candidate perspective,
Yeah.
and we need to have an ATS that we can use to get the reports that we want to
Yes.
have.
And I think the streamlined process also makes sure you are flexible enough for local nuances. So
Yeah.
in order to be adjustable for local needs, you need the first bigger vision in place. So I
Exactly.
think that was like
Mm.
step one, right?
Mm.
And then you mentioned refreshing the content in a sense where you wanted to amplify the vision of what Apoteket is in terms of like inclusivity and diversity, and as a more modern employer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the content we were using back in 2023 and before that,
Mm,
uh, the content didn't reflect the way that we think about ourselves as both a company and but also as an employer.
yeah.
So that was a huge change that we
Mm.
decided to do, and yeah, we will go into the result later on. But it was a good choice. It was
It
the
was a
right
great choice.
decision.
It was, I mean, a necessary choice, and as you said, move away from like just
Old
being
and
in the
boring,
pharmacy,
and
doing like well,
yeah,
very outdated common practices into like you can also work in IT. There's several options, etc. So I think that was a fantastic revamp, which you did together with the TE team. And then as you said, you were touching on the ad strategy, so the job ad strategy, and with that way, we've been working 3 years now together, I believe.
yeah, for quite many years.
Quite many years. Yeah, we're partners at this point. We love
Mm,
working with you guys. And what we also looked at together with the job ad strategy was obviously how to turn this refreshed content and make it irresistible on the platforms of the candidate's choice. So we made sure each vacancy, often the hard to fill positions,
yeah.
were designed on a candidate journey on social media that made sure these important KPIs that we will go into very soon were, as you said, going up or going down the way we want.
Yeah.
I love that. You
Mm.
should go down, you should go up.
Yeah, there are some KPIs that we are looking at, and yeah,
I love
some
that.
of the
I love
graphs should go up and some should go down. Yeah,
that. Yes,
easy as
yes,
that.
yes. But I think we'll touch upon also how this ad strategy could reflect the local nuances and also the broad strategy, broader strategy, obviously. But then one big mission was also to create a stronger EVP, right?
Yes,
Yes. Could you
yes.
take us like through that work? Because you've included a lot of different tiers in the company, making sure everyone was involved in the
Yeah. So
without overwhelming anyone.
yeah, from if we got just to go 1 year or maybe like a half a year back,
Mhm.
we were actually having two different employee value proposition. One,
Oh,
yeah,
why?
yeah,
Why?
interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
One attracting attracting the pharmacists,
More
and
awareness. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, more awareness. Yeah, and we had one EVP for tech positions.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mm.
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 And of course, you can have that, but we wanted to have one employee value proposition for Apoteket.
Mm.
And we also wanted to have an employee value proposition that reflected the whole organization. So we decided okay, let's just redo everything from scratch.
Mm.
And of course, it's always important to include the organization. I mean, the people working in the organization.
Yeah.
So we decided this should include both managers, but also all employees. They
Ah.
know what they think about, how they would
Mm.
like to present Apoteket, what are the most positive, things about
Yeah.
our
The
organization.
reason. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So we are actually on that journey now, and we are not there in the end yet, but very, very soon.
But I think that's a great point as well. A lot of TA teams get stuck in, oh, we have to have a perfect career page or perfect EVP, perfect before we can, which I think is such a threshold. Like you obviously, I respect a big project and there's like a lot of stakeholders involved, but sometimes you have to realize it's an ongoing work.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think the messaging, like it evolves with how the company evolves, and like the pace today is exponential.
Yeah, and we decided to we have to do something. Meanwhile, we are working on the new employee value proposition.
I love
And you mentioned the career page. That was one thing that we decided to. Okay, we have to have some information for the candidates that are relevant and that can reflect the different departments and the positions. And also about the content, we decided to, okay, let's go in a middle way, something that can describe Apoteket, but also not give the right information, but not go in that direction or that direction, because we are actually waiting for what will be the content and
messaging.
The messaging
in. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we have done some storytelling, but there will be, like a more of that later on.
Yeah. And you're doing this together with Oddwork, is that true?
That's right.
Yeah. And you're involving like different work groups, and you said stakeholders and like top leadership, but also like everyone from every part of the company.
And I think that is very important to do if you want to have an employer value proposition, employer brand that really reflect your organization. And that is actually what you want with your EVP. You want that to be solid, because that is something that you communicate to the candidates that you're looking for. So when they reach the message that we are sending to them, they would like to learn about how is it to work in this organization? What can I expect? And that is also something that you have to be able to provide when they are on board.
Yeah. And it starts from the actual first ad, to your point. So it's a whole experience that you have to design for them. But I think before we move into the concrete wins, we have some KPIs and stats to show from your latest reports that we did together. I think we landed in like 4 areas of like the results, what actually changed a year from last year to today. So one thing you mentioned was like smoother processes and in general a better candidate experience. What is that today?
If you look at the process, we know, and also the candidate know what to expect, how much, what are the steps including in the process, and what kind of information will we provide as from a candidate perspective. And we also decided to exclude the personal letter, for example. We want to make it easy for our candidates to apply. And I think to make it easy, it should be, you should not take too much time
no
of your candidate.
Yes, like clear, concise, and consistent in general recruitment workflows, I believe, was like your main North Star, and just make life easier for everyone, enjoyable. I think that's just step one. It's fantastic, and that change is going to make, obviously it shows in the data, but it made such a big difference. Then I think you said like the big work with updating the content and the storytelling in the EVP is obviously that you now have an authentic storytelling in all your job ads, in all your employer branding ads, in the journey throughout the chain is designed to build this modern story about this modern employer. And I think that's, again, where most teams struggle, how to activate that work. We work with a lot of TA teams who are very passionate, obviously, about branding and employer brand and benefits and storytelling, but they struggle with getting it outside of the house.
And I think the trick here is actually you can have your goal and your vision, and you probably have like a very ambitious goal to reach. But you have to make it easy. Start with the small simple things that you can do, and then you can like have your plans, but you have to take one step at a time.
And I think it all ties back
Don't
to
make it complicated.
no, and it's complicated enough. So like
Yeah.
the first initiative, remove all friction and make it enjoyable.
Mhm.
But I think tying back to today's title, from moving from reactive to proactive, is also number 3, where data actually works for you. So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, with a subtle TA strategy, a subtle process in place, much better optimized systems and tech supporting it, I think you can also build your cases. I know you have internally, where you can rely on the data and showcase where here's where we're not reaching our full potential. It's easy. Look at here. We can compare to
Yeah,
data
and
a year
I
ago.
think one interesting, just to mention that here, is that we have the data, and that is how we as a talent acquisition team actually work. We
Yeah.
rely on the things that we know,
Yeah,
not only things that we think. We have to know things.
You wanted to say gut feeling. I could tell.
Yeah.
Which is forbidden in Carolina's
Yes,
vocabulary.
totally
We
forbidden.
cannot.
But I think, I mean, working in an organization that isn't used to work with data, that could be a struggle as well.
Yeah.
I get the questions quite often.
Yeah.
Is this information, this data, reliable?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Can we trust this?
Yeah. Oh. I mean, fair game, because I mean the history has been a mess for most
TA
and HR functions for several years.
But now we have the structure, so we know. Okay, we can trust most of the data. Okay, there could be things that, depending on how you have used, how you used, how you work in the recruitment process, things like that. It can have an effect on the data, but there are so many candidates applying to our open positions or connecting with us. So we know that most of the data is
But I think
reliable.
The big case here is that the data supports the process that you've built. So you just know, if you stay clear to the process, you're going to have optimal results. But if you go rogue and do your own little 4-5 interview, whatever, it's going to look different. The result is going to differ, and it's going to differ from both satisfaction on the client side, but also on the hiring manager side. I think that is in itself is a huge case.
And that is also why we are pushing very hard when we have a process when we are going to do hiring. You have to stick to the process. You have to do it in this way, otherwise there will be
no, exactly.
There will be consequences.
Yeah. As we said, it doesn't matter how many fantastic or relevant candidates that we make sure feeds back into your system if the process from there is horrible or not even supporting anyone, like not even the hiring manager or the candidate. So number 4, when we talked about the actual results you saw, or like what changed, was obviously smarter talent attraction, where you now have a full design chain, and it's not up to anyone to decide, oh, I'm gonna publish this ad here, I'm gonna go on this job. Like it's you have a process in place that is backed by smart data, which also helps you build one giant, cohesive, and smart talent pool. Like your talent pools are out of the park good. We can see, we're going to move into the KPIs very shortly, but like we can really tell that your process is attracting fantastic relevant talent at a speed of light, which is obviously where we started and had some issues in the beginning.
And now we have talent pool, as you mentioned, that we can like reuse if we have similar positions, and that is of course important, but it also have a very positive effect on the speed of the hiring process as well.
Exactly.
If we know that we already have candidates that we can like move to this position.
Yes.
And going back to where we were in 2023, there were talent pool existing, but the talents within the pool didn't match the positions that we were hiring for. So you have a lot of people here, but you can't,
the relevance.
Exactly. So
and it's all, again, back to data. Can we have that information back, who we ended up hiring, that could feed and inform how we go with the attraction strategy. So I think as today, when we work together, there's a whole nurturing piece that's just out of the park smart, because that keeps your talent pool relevant and warm to make sure you, as you said, there's a lot of similar open vacancies often when you have the volume that you guys have. And we want to make sure that we have, wouldn't say monopoly, but like you are connected to the majority of all relevant candidates in the regions that you work.
And of course, this is a work in progress.
Yes.
I mean, we implemented the new ATS, I think, one year ago, October last year.
Yep.
And there have been other things that we also have implemented to make things going. So, I mean, information from 1 year ago, that's not so a lot of it's information,
but the relevance might be.
Yeah, but as time goes, we will have more and more data, and we will also be able to do better on choices based on that. Based on that information.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And everyone, remember watching live, remember to comment summary to get your hands on all the key takeaways. I love the comments so far. We're going to move into some of the immediate results that we saw just making this proactive change into the TA strategy. And I think you can elaborate a bit on some of the actual wins that we've saw. Let's see. Oh, we're turning very tiny here, Carolina. But let's just go through some of the highlights from our recent report we did together.
Don't you like this view?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you are beautiful, but I'm looking at the slide.
I love the slide.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually one thing that I mentioned, that, okay, there are graphs that should go up, and there are also graphs that should go down. And this is in the right direction.
Should definitely go up. Yeah. So this is applications per vacancy, and it's compared a year back from 2023 up to now in 24. And what we can see here is, on average, you have now jumped from much more relevant candidates to choose from when it comes to each vacancy. So this is the average applications per quarter when it comes to applications per vacancy. So you moved from around 5 per open vacancy to almost 23 relevant candidates per vacancy.
And this is just a comment about this. I mean, now we have the report, and we were actually noticing a couple of months ago that don't we have more candidates applying for each position, and don't we also have more relevant candidates applying for each position?
Which is very much a main highlight, and that's where we're going to move into very soon with time to attract. But I think that's a very valid point, where the relevance is obviously going to be the main part. So when you move from 5 to 23, that is giving you a huge relevant and strong selection of a candidate pool. So we're not guessing when we go to market. We're not guessing what candidates should be met with your job ads. We already know, because we have them in the talent pools. But the fact that your messaging and the strategy is resonating so well, so you have an average of 23 applications per vacancy, and we're talking about pharmacists, like it's hard to attract talent. This is industry game changing, and it just gives you the best selection opportunity to choose from, and it opens up for all of the KPIs you want to measure, diversity, all of it. So I think this is just one fantastic graph going up, Carolina. Great work to you and the team. And when we talk about going down, another graph.
This is exactly how we want it to be. The time to attract going down.
Yes. And why we look at time to attract, obviously, is because this is a much more nuanced KPI that we believe TA teams are it's supporting the case for talent acquisition in general, whereas time to hire, which we always also look at, is more affected by a hiring manager or someone taking a vacation or any different bit that obviously could affect. And time to hire is a fantastic business KPI, but for TA teams, we believe time to attract is fantastic. And I don't know if you want to give an explanation of what time to attract is, Carolina, or I can just give the general so people are following us.
Yeah, go ahead.
I go ahead. So time to attract is a KPI that measures how fast we get the candidate that we ended up hiring into the process. So we know that candidate X was hired, and then we can backtrack how fast we attracted that candidate into the process, which is an enormous KPIs when it comes to defining budgets and how you should spend your recruitment budget, or knowing what social media channels are attracting relevant hires. So it's a fantastic KPI, which I urge more TA teams to work with. IBM has worked a lot with it. It's growing in terms of relevance for TA. And I think in this case, you guys cut it down from 32 days to 12 days, meaning you attract the absolute right people way faster.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
And we can also see that, I mean, if we don't look at the numbers here, but just going into the different recruitment processes in our ATS, we can see that we have candidates applying very soon after we have opened up the position. So, I mean, connecting that with the recruitment marketing strategy that we have, it says that, okay, we have the recruitment marketing strategy that we have today is much, much better than the one that we had before. Going in the right direction.
Exactly. And this is an ongoing work, obviously. And it's definitely a KPI that you can control, which is
absolutely. I mean this is related to our job ads, everything that we do, all the communication that we do, the content that we have, the storytelling that we have.
And it justifies the EVP work, it justifies the employer branding, it justifies all the recruitment marketing, because obviously it has a huge impact on your entire chain. So this is a massive kudos to the team. I know you guys are working hard for this. And then, as we mentioned, time to hire is obviously a KPI that should be measured, but I think you and I can agree, it's a more of a business KPI. The business should be obsessed with time to hire, obviously, because it affects us. But in this case, I mean, it's not a small slash. You went from, on average, 88 days down to 31. It's still a work in progress, obviously, but the cut is insane. So
and this KPI is related to what happens in the process, in the recruitment process.
Yes.
How fast do we schedule interviews with the candidate, both from the talent acquisition team, but also from the hiring manager?
Yeah.
And how do we use the ATS? Do we move candidates from one step to the next one?
Yes. No, I think that's brilliant. And also what we obviously will land in this live stream together is how we can utilize, again, reliable data and these sort of reports and KPIs to make informed decisions. For instance, I think you mentioned, we don't have to jump in it like too much, but I think you mentioned that there's when you look at the entire spectra of open vacancies, or like vacancies that you had on a year, there's still some cases who had slightly higher time to attract, for instance, where you could point back to, have you followed the suggested strategy or not? And again, before using reliable data or having that data at hand, how would you know? Like, how would you know?
So what we are going to do, because there are some cases that differs from the overall result, what happened in those cases? Do we have used? Do we have moved the candidate to the next step? Do we have move it to hired or not?
Yes,
is it still open? Why didn't you close it?
Exactly. And I think that gives you so much power internally in order to become that business strategist, where you can challenge the way you work, or how someone figured it was better to work in a local office or whatever. Again, not like working against each other, but having informed data that helps us make better decisions, where you can also A/B test next time. Like, if you want to keep the process, okay, let's see. Let's make a comparison,
And I mean, looking at the situation that we are in as an organization, recruiting pharmacies, and there are, a lot of competitors looking for the same kind of competence. We need to be much, much faster, and we need to know that we are doing things in a correct way to be able to recruit the people that we're looking for. And that is also why this is so important, to look at these kind of, metrics, and also make decisions based on that.
Yeah. And I think you said there, like, it's a highly competitive space, and it's also lack of talent in some areas, whereas it's super important to build a relationship with them from day one, almost from the university. So you make sure that you're an employer of choice, even if it's 2 years ahead. You need to start nudging them. And that's exactly what you're doing with your talent attraction strategy today, which is super impressive. And I think the case also when we now work with data driven is how you can roll out even bigger campaigns or smart actions, or how you can optimize your entire recruitment marketing campaign. You have all the data, exactly what channels are giving us
working for us.
This result. And I think that's something that a lot of TE teams will get super inspired by. But time is ticking. It's been a fantastic, fantastic having you on, Carolina. I've been begging for years, trying to get you on and showcase.
I'm here.
Yes, our fantastic results. But just before we end, could I ask, like, if there's two things, one or two, you can choose, main things you believe people should take with them from this session today, where you want to inspire, what are those things?
I think it's very important to know where you are and where you want to be.
Yeah, so define today's obstacles.
And where do you want to be, and what is the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and also to start with the small things.
Yes.
And of course, it's very important to get a buy-in from the organization, the hiring managers, the executive management team, and the people working together with you. And I also think it's super important to have a strong talent acquisition team who are aware about, okay, what is our goal? What is our vision? And I want to take this just a second to appreciate the team members that they have. I mean,
you should.
They are awesome. We wouldn't be able to be where we are at this point if the people didn't, were on board in this. In this journey.
That's really an outside objective as well. I can really tell the entire TE team at Apoteket are so aligned, so motivated. You guys are just crushing it. Obviously, we have the data, but we can also see externally how proud you are working together and working with Apoteket, and the progress you've made. It really shows. And let me just say also, if anyone watching this are curious on how to get buy-in from managers and how to get building your business case internally, reach out to Carolina, connect with her on LinkedIn, because she's a force in this field. Like, there's no one never giving up.
No, I don't do that.
It doesn't crumble. Like, you just go for it, and you have the data and you have the power, and you don't let the top puppy syndrome stop you. So that's my urge.
If you decide to, okay, we want to be a talent acquisition team, then you have to understand what's the difference between that and recruitment or being a service organization, and that comes with things that you probably need to change, and you have to stick to your plan.
And be one thing I think you also guys are great at is internal selling. You have to, in a way, sell yourself and explain the business value over and over and over again, as you said. So not everyone just goes back to HR as a whole. So, and I think that's obviously been a big success for you guys, where you've made the mental change, whereas like TA is now one of our biggest functions in order to have this company working so well, which is super inspiring. But we have to end this session, Carolina. It's too interesting. It's too good. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out to Carolina, connect with her on LinkedIn, and anyone who comments summary will get your hands on all the data and the key takeaways, and we'll see you next time.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on this show. It's been years. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.